The laughter started before he even reached the mat, low at first, then spreading in careless ripples across the training hall like something contagious and cruel, and for a moment it felt louder than the thudding of fists against punching bags, louder than the whistles, louder than the echo of boots on polished concrete, because it wasn't just noise, it was judgment, sharp and familiar, the kind that had followed him for years. He stood there in borrowed training gear that didn't quite fit, shoulders tense, eyes tired but steady, a single father with a faded duffel bag and a past no one in that room cared to understand, and every stare told him the same thing: he did not belong. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a second right now to like the video, share it, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this remind us not to judge someone by the surface of their struggle. The police tryout arena was built to test limits, not stories. And the instructors pacing along the sidelines saw only numbers, times, strength scores, endurance levels, not the invisible weight a man carried when he hadn't slept a full night in 6 years because nightmares and midnight fevers had become part of the same routine. His name was Amir, though no one bothered to ask, and his hands were rough from warehouse shifts, late-night delivery runs, and fixing anything in their small apartment that broke because paying someone else had never been an option. That morning before sunrise, he had knelt on a kitchen floor beside his daughter, tying her shoelaces while she tried to smile through the worry she didn't know how to hide, promising her he would be back before dinner, promising her he would try his best, promising her a future he wasn't sure he could reach but refused to stop chasing. The physical tests came first, and they were designed to strip people down to their limits, to expose weakness in muscle and mind, and Amir felt every hour of missed sleep, every cheap meal, every ache he had learned to ignore. He ran beside men nearly 10 years younger, men who had trained in gyms with mirrors and protein shakes, men who laughed between drills like this was just another challenge to conquer, not a lifeline. His breath burned, his legs felt heavy, and more than once he stumbled, catching himself before he fell, hearing someone mutter that he wouldn't last the day. But every time doubt pressed in, he saw his daughter at the window that morning, her small hand raised in a wave too brave for her age, and he pushed forward with a quiet stubbornness that came from loving someone more than you feared failing. By midday, sweat had soaked through his shirt, and the sun through the high windows turned the hall into a furnace. The instructors called for the combat assessment, the part everyone waited for, where technique met pressure and reputations could be built or shattered in seconds. The strongest recruit in the group was impossible to miss. Tall, broad-shouldered, built like someone who had never missed a meal or a workout, his confidence filling the space around him. When Amir's name was paired with his, the laughter returned, louder this time, because to them it looked like a mismatch, a formality before elimination, the final proof that the tired single dad should have stayed home. As they stepped onto the mat, Amir felt the old fear rise, the same one he had felt years ago when life had knocked him down without warning, when hospital corridors and unanswered calls had changed everything overnight. He had once trained in martial arts, long before responsibility reshaped his days, long before he traded evening classes for double shifts and bedtime stories. Those lessons had never left his muscles, only slept, waiting beneath the surface of routine and exhaustion. He closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, not to escape, but to steady the storm inside, to remember that strength was not always loud, and survival had already taught him more than any gym ever could. The whistle cut through the air, sharp and final, and the bigger recruit lunged forward with the force of someone used to overpowering opponents quickly, expecting resistance to crumble. But Amir didn't meet strength with strength. He moved with quiet precision, sidestepping, redirecting momentum, his body remembering angles and timing like an old language returning. In one fluid sequence he shifted his weight, locked an arm, used the other man's speed against him, and in seconds that felt like a blink, the giant who had seemed untouchable hit the mat hard. Air knocked from his lungs, the room falling into stunned silence so sudden it felt unreal. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The laughter was gone, replaced by the kind of quiet that follows something people don't know how to explain. Amir didn't celebrate, didn't raise his arms, didn't look around for approval. He simply stepped back, breathing hard, eyes lowered. Because to him this wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving to himself that he hadn't lost everything life had once given him. The instructors exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from dismissal to interest, and for the first time that day, someone looked at him like he was more than a mistake in the lineup. The rest of the trials passed in a blur of effort and pain, but something had changed. The same recruits who had laughed now watched him differently, not with mockery, but with a cautious respect that came from seeing strength they hadn't expected. Every push-up, every sprint, every drill felt like a step away from the edge he had been standing on for years. He thought about the nights he had sat on the edge of his daughter's bed after she fell asleep, wondering how long he could keep holding everything together, wondering if trying again was worth the risk of failing in front of the one person who believed in him completely. When the final results were read, the hall was heavy with anticipation, and Amir stood at the back, hands clasped, heart pounding not from the drills but from the weight of hope he was almost afraid to feel. His name came last, clear and official, selected, qualified, accepted into training. The word echoed in his mind, accepted, as if it meant more than a position, as if it reached back through every rejection, every sideways look, every time he had been told he wasn't enough. His knees felt weak, not from exhaustion but from relief so deep it almost hurt. That evening he walked home slower than usual, the city lights softer somehow, the noise less sharp. He opened the apartment door to find his daughter waiting, eyes wide, searching his face for the answer she had been holding her breath for all day. He lifted her into his arms, and for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like a wall he kept running into, but a road, uncertain but open. He knew the journey ahead would be hard, the training brutal, the hours long, but he also knew he had already survived harder battles without applause or recognition. Before this story ends, drop a comment right now saying strength is quiet if you believe the strongest people are often the ones fighting battles no one else can see. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone who kept going when quitting would have been easier, please like, share, and engage with the video, because your support helps stories of resilience and second chances reach the people who need them most. Amir had walked into that hall as a joke to some, a tired man chasing a dream that looked too big for his life. But he walked out as proof that struggle can shape a different kind of strength, one built in hospital rooms, on night buses, in tiny kitchens before dawn. The world had laughed, and he had answered not with anger, but with quiet skill, patience, and a refusal to let pain be the final word. And somewhere in a small apartment, a little girl slept that night with a little less worry, because her father had stood up in a room full of doubt and shown that sometimes the ones people underestimate are the ones who change the outcome in seconds.